your keynote at the IBPA conference that you were like, always ask for what you want.
So, just for the listeners, if you guys are aware, I've been 25 years in sales, marketing, and business development. And I founded this company on this concept and idea of real great packaging, that books are gorgeous objects that are seen and deserve to be just as you would buy a beautiful candle. You would buy a beautiful book. But the cool thing about a book, it's like can last on a shelf for a very, very long time, right? Unlike a candle reminder. So, what I said to people is you've got to continue to show up. You have to continue to ask and you have to continue to show up because the fact of the matter is that is your superpower as an indie or a business owner, a small business. We have more in common with these specialty shops and these booksellers than a large corporation because we have to always think, how are we going to do something differently? How are we going to market ourselves differently? And how are we going to continue to show up? So I said, but show up in the traditional spaces.
Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we welcome back returning guest, Angela Engel, proprietor, chief executive of the Collective Book Studio, who is, notably to this podcast and in general, one of 2024's fastest growing publishers in Publishers Weekly. Angela, how did you become a fastest growing publisher in 2024? Were you like practicing your like jogging skills? What did you do?
No, actually, I was not practicing my jogging skills, but good to note that that might be a key for 2025. So no, I really took off in specialty retail. That's really what I did. I took off in all national specialty. So, we're already pretty great at doing stuff with the smaller indie channel and like little mom and pop shops, but really taking on whether that be World Market Cost Plus or Nordstrom's, Anthro, Urban, those types of places. Anthropologie, I'll say. I won't speak in, tongue here. So that really, really is what helped. And across the board, we also had some breakout titles in specialty with reorders. Nosh, our Jewish modern vegan, it's not vegan, it's vegetarian, but it's plant forward cuisine that really, really helped. We also had a book that continues to sell for us, which is Houseplants and Their Fucked Up Thoughts, which I know is a favorite of both of yours. So just really finding more and more reach for some really key titles as well.
We are also loving the world of specialty retail. We tend to focus more on the smaller stores, and those bigger stores elude us. Can you advise us and our listeners about how to get these big national specialty accounts?
Yes. Yes. First advice, go shop them. I'm dead serious. Like go into the stores, whether that be Urban Outfitters or Anthropologie, look at what how they're merchandising, what their color schemes are. Actually start doing that really, really early in the process while you're in the make side. So as a publisher, we acquire, I have things from spring 2027. So I'll start like thinking about like what are sort of garden landscapes, that kind of things. And I'll start thinking to myself, how can my cover design, how can my packaging sort of also think about what is going on in the retail environment. So that is the first step. And then really being proactive with your reps, shopping around your covers and your packaging. So like talking with your reps and being like, hey, we're kind of thinking, should this be blue or this be beige? Not being shy on those larger conversations. And there are times where I might go with like, hey, this is our gut and this is what we're going to do for sure as a publisher. But there are often times that I'm also really like, we got to change this. I go back to an author and I give them a really great case. And it really, really worked. I mean, and I think that it also allows these national buyers to be part of the conversation. So that's one. The other thing is, if you know this is a title you'd love to see in an anthology or Crate and Barrel, you should air freight the books that if you print overseas or wherever, or make handbounds or something early that you can mail and get into their hands earlier than later. So that is part of our marketing budget, is we actually put into our budget $300 to $500 in that we earmark to air freight advances to get into these national accounts. And that really helps your print runs and helps all the other stuff that is part of the game here in publishing.
I love that. So we first started ending up in national specialty stores about, let's say 20 years ago. And it was actually sort of the opposite, where we had never thought that would be the types of accounts that would sell our books. So we didn't go after them. And then it was like one day, an old friend like took a photo of one of our books in an urban and was like, "Isn't it wild that I found this here?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And it like literally happened like that. It wasn't like a salesperson coming back and being like, "Urban's buy is however many." It was more like, it was like, "Wait, this already happened? How did anyway?" And so, and then you get a little more refined. And I do think, and like Tower Records was a big one. You're old enough to remember this stuff. And
I
so
love Tower.
and
I
those
am
were,
old enough, Joe.
yeah, and those were great accounts. I mean, Urban's still like, it's different now, but it's like, and there's things about it that are sort of unique though. Like they change buyers a lot. They have younger, hipper buyers than, let's say, like Barnes and Noble or, these kind of places. And so what else have you observed in that way that sets these kind of accounts apart from, say, like your, I don't know, your independent retailer or your like independent bookstore?
So three things. First of all, like Urban Outfitters taking tchotchkes and their fucked up thoughts. The second one of houseplants, but that didn't happen overnight, guys. Like they just took that for the fall. The book published in the spring. So you have to have patience and you have to understand that gift shows are really important, those showrooms. So we will also air freight. So part of your air freight marketing cost is to like look at when summer and spring shows are. And if your books are not going to land in the warehouse, you need to make sure that you have worked with your showroom so that your newest books are there for those buyers. So those young buyers, Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, actually even for Barnes and Noble gift side and their paper store side, they're visiting those Atlanta gift show as well. I'm going to give you guys an example, but I am so deep in the specialty that I make sure it's at Las Vegas, it's in New York, it's in Dallas, in LA, it's everywhere. So I'm like, okay, so I have 6 major showrooms. I know this is a gift book. I'm going to air freight these 6 over, because what will happen is an Urban Outfitters buyer might go to Atlanta, but 3 months later, they're going to go to something in New York. And if they get to see your book twice over a 2-month period, there's something there, right? So they might not have thought about it or think, and then they're looking at other products, right? And then they're like, actually, we've seen all these tchotchke things. We keep going to these stores, and there's all this like, weird, fun, funky toys and rubber chickens and things. And we're going to build out now a display at Urban Outfitters, and we're going to make this book an anchor as part of all the other tchotchkes we bought all summer. So that is the key. When you think you have something, is to not think, oh gosh, they passed on the first one. They actually saw it, but they're looking at all other things in specialty that might make the story within their store. So one of the goals also is create your story. For example, we have a cookbook right now called Heartland Masala, and Diwali is coming. So like we created a really cool sell sheet and a pre-order campaign and all this stuff to get posters. And so, you know what, that's not national specialty, but that might be spice shops, right? And other places. So start besides the indie market. And when I say indie market, I mean indie booksellers. So who have been great about that, but you also have a whole other section of stores that you can think about, that you can offer. Actually, maybe I should talk to you guys about it. You got spice stores, and I'll offer a poster and all of this stuff. So, you know, it's really honestly, I am I don't know if I'm notorious or I'm relentless. Like use it, let's maybe I'm both, but I'm like, you know, with stores, I'm both relentless and notorious of like, okay, so that didn't work for you, that display, what would work for you? So I also ask that, like, if vegetarian doesn't work or you're not doing a spice shop, like, are you doing a holiday? Like, just continually asking those questions and then creating sell sheets, pretty emailable sell sheets for your reps. So right now, for example, I have this book called Knitting Witch that did really, really well for us. I'm like, let's make a new Halloween sell sheet, like just reminding the reps, hey, you can go back to your store and go, do you have a Halloween display? Do you remember how well this book did for you last October? There's an entire new consumer base who's 9 years old who needs this book, right? This Knitting Witch, amazing middle grade reader, because they weren't 9 last Halloween. So I just want to, in the world of nonfiction and children's, we have new readers all the time. And that's what we have to continually remind us and our reps. And the nice thing about specialty, they get that. They're not like a bookstore that's like, oh, I need the latest, you know, romance novel. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm a plant store. I'm always a plant store. And there's always new customers. So sometimes we are almost too far off the grid. Don't be that. Actually continue to show up. That's what I'm so notorious and relentless on is I'm going to stick here. I'm going to stand up with 10 Speed Press, which I used to work for when it was independent, but now it's Random House. So I don't think I'm any lesser deserving to be in the spaces as Random House because I worked for 10 Speed for a number of years. I, you know, cultivated those cookbooks. I got those into those major mass market retailers like a Target. So my brand is just the same to the end consumer. And I'm trying to get under contract this really cool book called Radical Consumerism. The market is asking and seeking brands like a Microcosm, brands like mine in larger retail space. So the larger retails need us. They need us because the consumer wants to buy from a small business owner, from, you know, somebody, a BIPOC or, you know, other types of marginalized communities.
Yeah, we have run into similar oddities where we were approached by a big box sales group who said that they wanted to sell books like ours into national big box accounts, and we were like, that's never gone terribly well in the past. You know,
Yes,
but
well, that's a returnable market. And so I'm very careful. So that's great to the listeners to know. Non-returnable day in, day out, like a Home Goods. I get my stuff into Home Goods, TJ Maxx, you know, Marshalls, wherever. Marshalls.com is great. It's no risk. It's like 50 copies. Like you got, but when you talk about mass market like a Walmart or Target, you have to be extremely careful because of the returnability in our thing. And that's where I actually have backed away a lot. And my growth in PW is really because I stayed healthy and out of large mass market. And I really focused on things like a Home Goods. I did deeper discounts, but when you can do deeper, I did a whole reprint of Nosh to go in there. But you know, it's non-returnable.
yeah, and so you don't have the risk in that
Yes.
way. So what, and I love your vision that you're like independent publishers should, and and this is something that I wrote about a lot in the book where it's like independent publishers should be interchangeable with major houses. We just have better books. That's really the only difference. And and like, but you have a strong belief in that in maybe a different way, or does this have more to do with like your background in sales or what? Where does this come from?
Yeah, where does this come from? I think, yeah, I do think that like I think I talked about this in my keynote too. And like there's no AI, right? Because my brain is my brain. And so like it's like I have just 25 years of like, selling to catalogers like Bablu or Chinaberry as much as I had when Papyrus was around, right? Or Toys R Us. And so I have this sort of ability when I think we acquire, we actually have these kickoff creative meetings. So this is something that we do all in house, and I bring in editorial and design, and we don't actually have the author in that meeting. We sort of talk about like what could the specs look like what could the packaging, before we've even gone into design. Like literally we call it our creative brief, our creative meeting. And when you get all those minds together, like we come up with really cool ideas. Do we want it in a square? Do we want it a rectangle? What type of like imagery do we want in this? And so I really encourage people to sort of come up with what I would say like a little mini think tank of people that are really close to the project. And that way and then we kind of come up with like what else is out there, who, and like what, and that really has helped us shape and form our list. And then what happens is editorial goes back to the author after our creative meeting and go, hey, this is really what we need you to sign off on, or the photographer or the artist, based on really what we're thinking is best for your book in the trade. We completely remind our authors they came to us for trade expertise. And oftentimes we're pretty successful. Every once in a while, it's a challenging conversation.
You don't win them all, but
you don't win them all.
But that's how you're really trying, I think.
Yeah.
We built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit. Doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try.
The other thing that I remember you saying at that keynote, I don't know why this has become a keynote recap, but I really got a lot out of it, is I remember you were like, pick up the phone and call people.
Yeah. But yeah, like sometimes I'll even shoot somebody an email and be like, hey, do you have like 10 minutes? Can I just get you on the phone for 10 minutes? Can we clear this up? And that has been so successful for me. I programmed this year 5 stages for the American Library Association. I think I'm literally the only publisher. There's not, Random House is not going, they might have keynotes to go out and do other programming, but I'm saying I actually curated and programmed out my stages for them. And so at that meeting, or at one of the stages, I met the director of education for the Texas Library Association. So I just shot her an email. I'm like, hey, it was so lovely to meet you. She was like, I loved your programming. I'm like, can we just get on the phone? Can we just talk about what could be? And she's like, absolutely. Right. And so that is your biggest key, is like, you just ask people, like, can we get on a call? And even if it doesn't happen, you would be surprised what comes out of that, right? Like a new idea, a new book project, or what they're looking for. I learned, based on phone calls, like, hey, how can I acquire more books on sports? Because books on sports right now are really, really hot. Women's sports are really, really hot. So like I didn't even think of that, right, internally, until I had a conversation with somebody on the phone in the library market who's like, we need you to develop more kids' books in sports, and we'd like them to be nonfiction. Hey, I'm giving this out free information, guys. Watch the Microcosm YouTube podcast, because I'm not competitive. You could also be publishing sports books.
Yeah. Great. That's great. And that's kind of the whole spirit of the podcast is where
Yeah,
like nothing is privatized, nothing is secret. If
correct.
we
I
know
love
it,
it.
you'll know it. And like people aren't, well, one of my somebody in my life recently said that people are more afraid of change than they are of failure. And I've found that doubly true in publishing, where people like, even if it's like you're like, here is the cheat codes to winning at life, and they're like, I don't know, seems risky.
Yeah, and I want to talk about back about phone call. It's like I said that because I want to remind people that like people love to be asked a question and then kind of help curate or like use their knowledge that they can create. Like our industry is creative. So if you can ask somebody like in retail too, right? Like I do this all the time. My success, in specialty especially, has been like, hey, what are your themes? What are your colors? Like asking those questions, not making assumptions, goes a long way to a buyer too. It means that you are not selling at them. You're not creating and saying, my book is the best book out there. It should be with your drinkware. Okay, that's like, come on. How many drinkware books do you think Crate and Barrel gets every day? That is not the hook. The hook is really like, hey, what is really hot right now? And they might tell you, you know what, we're selling so many whiskey glasses. We're selling more whiskey glasses. Could you do something that's really interesting on whiskey? So it's really, but I wouldn't even know that unless I asked the question about like what's selling in barware. Those are like my little tips for getting into specialty. Did that
These are
help?
these are great tips.
Hey, we've only said it 6 times. So you were a fastest growing publisher in Publishers Weekly this year. Why did you go after specialty stores instead of the many other places that books are sold? Also, a smart woman once said to see point of sale systems everywhere you look for books. Do you know who that was?
Um, was it me? I don't know. I'm just
It
kidding.
was you.
Was it? It was? I did. I go after everything. Now there is a very large um wholesaler right now that's been amazing to us called Fair.com. I don't know. Are you guys familiar in selling on Fair.com? So that
Mhm.
is definitely part of our growth. And so I want to make sure. And so sometimes it's a little prickly, right? Because our reps have feelings about Fair.com. But for a publisher perspective, Fair.com has changed our business and will continually change our business. And if you're not familiar with fair.com, it's a wholesaler into all of these specialty shops, but bookstores, indie bookstores are also buying on that because really smart indies are selling things like reading glasses and candles and bookmarks and stickers and tote bags and plants or whatever they're selling. So what we're doing is actually, I just got you guys a really great lamplight butcher paper, and we're starting to do all these really fun photos that with like, okay, let's say you have a journal and putting pens out or crayons and doing openings, and then we're sending them to our person who manages Fair for us, and she is uploading these cool images onto Fair. So if you have a book that's like a journal, instead of just a cover shot, you could put like these really cool this journal with some beautiful pens on a butcher paper, and somebody goes, and you could actually write on the butcher paper and make stars, and all of a sudden this art retailer is like, oh, I want that book. It would be great in my store. I'm almost saying, imagine this. So you literally can invest in like a photo light butcher paper on any table. You don't even need a photo box and a really good iPhone to be completely transparent. You don't even need like a great camera these days. iPhones have great cameras, and you can submit those all on Fair. And now Fair is our number 3 account. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's incredible.
I
Yeah, I mean,
continually dig into that
fair.
account, create new product images for that account.
Right. So it's worthwhile. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
Fair is bigger for us than Ingram is, which is really interesting to me, and
Yes,
I would not have guessed that, especially 5 years ago, I would not have guessed
correct.
that.
Correct. And
But
so I would like we have this little book called Little Loon Finds His Voice. It's a kid's book and we're sold out of the paperback. We did a paperback edition and everyone's like, oh, the hardcover did so well. And I'm like, but like all of these little tiny gift shops in northern Minnesota are blowing up 25 copies at a time. They're buying a paperback. Literally, one little store, 25 copies at a time through fair. So like but we put like, your book with your little loon stuffy, your book with your tall Minnesota beer glass. Like I'm saying, just get a photo with, order a bunch of little tchotchkes. I'm having my team like go, okay, I don't care, just order a bunch of stuff and start making photos. So I think that that would be my advice there. What other things about Joe that you have for me? You always have good questions.
I mean, but why that rather than say, I don't know, everybody always talks about bookstores. So why, like, did you see the interest and then chase the interest, or did you create the interest, or did you recognize that your product development works better in these kinds of stores?
So, like I said, bookstores, indie bookstores that buy my type of product, which is books that are already on fair.com, many of them. So they're seeing it there. And although I'm distributed with Simon & Schuster, they can buy it from Simon. What I've noticed is Simon's very front list focused, their reps, right? And so they're not going back into these indie bookstores and going, hey, this is a bunch of really cool product that you can sell as your cash wrap, like houseplants and their fucked up thoughts. I have one bookstore that has sold 90 plus copies because they're really smart. They put it at the cash register, right? So like I think it really is up to the publisher. Love distributors, right? But please, it is not the distributor's job. It is your job as a publisher to continually remind these stores why your product is so great. So if I can re-upload those images on fair.com, the bookstores are usually seeing those things. I do work very, very, very closely with the indie associations across the country, and I work on like whether that is I've found a lot of success. I found more success doing email ad campaigns on a regional level, especially if I do like pre-orders or I'm really, really specific with what my ask is. I have a lot of bookstore engagement. So I think that is really a big area of growth for indie publishers, is to just really continue to work with your booksellers of like how they can merchandise your book with other things. So are they having a poetry month, right? Like what are they doing for it? Like what could you give special with this particular poetry book? Like just continually, also again, I guess picking up the phone, right? And really working with bookstores and saying what could move the needle for you with this particular genre.
Yeah, that's great. And so are they allowing you, is Simon allowing you, the Collective Book Studio, to sell on Fair outside of Simon?
No, they manage that for me.
Oh, okay. Got it. Because I was gonna
Yes.
say that would be
I used to actually I did do that. I was on Fair myself. It's a lot of work. And Simon was actually new to Fair, and they hadn't opened it when we became. So that was a conversation I had with them, but the amount of work that it actually takes to manage it, I don't have it. So I was really happy, and I'm really happy with the results, and just having a human to manage it and somebody I can talk to. I mean, I still work with them and give them ideas and stuff, but it's a lot of work to manage yourself. I'm sure you guys know.
Oh, we do.
Oh, you're running, but keep it going. Do you want to tell the listeners Elly had to run, but we're going to keep going?
Elly had another appointment in a life of many appointments. She is much appointed, but she will get to listen to this in post. So let's say all the things that she wouldn't say. But first of all, what are you most excited about in 2025 that is going to continue to wow people with your continued success?
Oh, what am I so excited about in 2025? Well, I'm always looking at how I can expand or find new markets for and new concepts. So like I've just signed few books of mine with Scholastic and their nonprofit arm, which is a really great way to get our paperback version of our titles that we are not going to publish in paperback into the school market. So I'm really excited about being in some Scholastic Book Fair flyers. 3 books in January of 2026. So I'm going to be curious to see how that helps sort of elevate our hardcover and our beautiful titles. So I'm really excited about my Scholastic relationship that I've launched, and that took like a year to cultivate, and really American Library, like sitting down, having lunch, just continually phone calls, sample follow-up. You guys, again, Relentless and Notorious actually work, and proving that like our authors are hungry, that we're debut, like how do we build them, like asking questions, not assuming. Like I did all of that with Scholastic. So I'm really excited about this new partnership that's really going to blossom, I think, in 2026. What else am I excited about? I have just incredible titles on the list. I have this really cool book that we haven't figured out the right title, but we're going right now with bowl theory, which is an idea of basically serving your meal in a bowl, like one bowl. And it's going to be a fall 2026 cookbook for us. And the author is also the photographer, and she's just a dietitian and very, very cool. She's in Austin. So we're starting the photo shoot, and like her whole idea of like how to eat healthy from one bowl just feels actually doable as a human with a business and 3 children and all this kind of stuff. So I'm excited about that book. I have another tiki drink book that's always fun. I've got tons of children's books. So, I think it's really paring down my list and making sure my list works for the market. Cross my fingers. That maybe I get an indie next title, that I get there's like things that I have on my goals and horizon that I'm hoping happen in 2026.
Nice. I love the Bowls book as like a sequel to the Spate of Jars books, like salad jars and like the jar lunch. And there was was like maybe people like were a little too run ragged with the jar concept, that I feel like the world is ready for bowls.
Aren't they? Aren't they ready for bowls? And I can tell you now, when this podcast says no one else is going to have this gorgeous, like you guys can do bowl theory a different year, because you're not going to get this done. So in September of 2026, watch out. We're going to take on bowl theory by storm, Joe.
Excellent. Yeah. And this is something that maybe you have some pro tips for our audience. We have, and this is like every best-selling cookbook that Microcosm has ever published, like anything that did 5 or 6 figures, I swear to you, was always an illustrated cookbook. We have never had a single successful color photo cookbook. And over, people are like, you're doing it wrong. Like, you need to do it that way. And we're like, no, we've actually never had any success with that. But, when we do a book of like Posada style illustrations, like we can sell, in a cookbook, we can sell tens of thousands, and they just go and go and go. And it's, we did a Southern vegan book, 20 some years ago. And that was like another one where we were like, we did it entirely wrong. It was very popular. We even did one that was like a split cookbook, that, one side was Southwestern and, but the author's from Australia. So it's like a funny, weird, thing that you're like, how do you even know about like Texas food?
Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free.
We should talk about repackaging. That might be
Right.
really cool. Some
And
of your
maybe-
backlist.
Yeah, and maybe you have the magic touch for all that. But it's fascinating. So because we've tried, and boy, have we, we did the Sea Shepherd cookbook. We did a bunch of stuff like that, and it's just like it was hard to even hit 5,000 with those. And we were like, when we do it right, we don't get the same response. When we do it wrong, we get a huge response. But that's the story of Microcosm. But if you have any tips for aspiring cookbook authors other than beautiful photos, now's your moment.
Yeah. So really important is production. It's not just beautiful photos, it's actually how you produce the cookbook. This goes back to my whole philosophy of making a book for retail. You can't do a print on demand cookbook. Like it's not cost effective, nor does it work. You really need to think about cover design, but also not just cover design, the actual like texture of the book, the actual trim size, like how people can. I mean, I just was with my sister-in-law's this weekend, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she's pulling out this huge like stack. I'm telling you, everyone, it was this high, and it was recipes she had in a folder that she just printed out online, right? People don't necessarily need a cookbook, let's be honest, right? She has like, I don't know, collection of it. They're, over Epicurious or wherever else she's finding them. So my point is, what makes a great cookbook is usually because it's a lifestyle. It's really just showing they want it on their shelves from a lifestyle perspective, from an entertaining perspective, from a guest on their bookshelf perspective. And so if you go in the mindset of when you're going to create a cookbook of that's very different, right? Than like, hey, I'm just going to do this cookbook because it's got great recipes and people will buy it. No, there are great recipes all over the internet.
It's true. And I hear about this all the time whenever I'm like, this is the best gluten-free baking book I've found. People are like, meh. And I'm like, no, really, the best.
You have to make it a package. You have to
Yeah,
make it feel like, oh, I want to buy this like I would literally want, sorry, cookbook authors, but you got to make it just like you would want to buy like a really cool, I don't know, like case of new lipstick holders. Like you got to make it like, oh, I need these you don't need those lipstick holders, but you're actually like, actually I do. These are great. I don't even know what a lipstick holder is, but I'm just like making this up, Joe. But it's like really true. You have to make a cookbook these days from a packaging perspective. Like how beautiful are your end papers? Like every single thing needs to have thought.
Yeah. And we did it, we did a book, the most beautiful book I feel that we have ever done in that regard is called Chocolatology. And it's a book about like the science of chocolate. I would love your thoughts because it was like we have incredible photography. Like we got a pro photographer to shoot it all. Like it's incredible. I mean, this stuff looks great. The recipes are great. The whole thing is great. It has like really weird random things about chocolate. And it really is like you're living the lifestyle of chocolate, and it just did not take. But I bet if we had done it as like a weird illustration, but you are correct in the sense that all of the books that we have done that are successful are all lifestyle, where you're like just getting into the author's lifestyle of you're like, wow, you are a very specific kind of person that has very specific interests.
I would love to look at your chocolate book. Personally, I also do love chocolate, so
there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we did that book because one of our best-selling authors did, well, I don't mean to badmouth you, Joshua, but you did do a book with Quarto instead of with us, and you did immediately come back to do all of your successive books with us and all of your previous books with us. So we aren't too mad, but it was honestly like our author went and worked with Quarto, and we were like, well, we could do a chocolate book too. And that was like honestly the motivation at the time, which is
Got
not
it.
the best reason to do something.
Did you guys raise the money on Kickstarter for the photography?
It was a long time ago. I don't remember. It's very possible.
Yeah,
I do remember. No, I don't think we did for that one because I want to say we should have because I remember we went to a food festival and people were like, "Why have I never heard of this book before this moment where I'm touching it right now?" And you're like,
yeah,
I don't know." And they're like, "Why didn't you do it on Kickstarter?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I
yeah.
don't
That would
run
have
that
been a good
department."
one. Okay,
Yeah, and
well,
yeah,
there you go.
so
We have a Kickstarter going on right now, which we made. Woo woo! Made the Kickstarter, but we do that, as you know, creative funding here. It was a children's book called The Heart That Found You, and it's such a great, cute book, but illustrations are expensive. So I also am a strong believer of creative funding.
yeah, it's important. And I mean, honestly, I feel like it's not the thing we always tell people is Kickstarter is not about the money. It's about like doing a launch the same way you would do any other launch, where that's how you find your audience,
Yep.
just
Yeah.
like you would
And
find,
when you
and
can
then
make a, and then you also know, like we made this, 7 grand and we still have 16 days to go. You know that there's an audience then also for this book. That's what's really cool. And then you can kind of say, okay, so we still have 16 days to go. We made our Kickstarter. What does this even mean in the market? This means that there are people hungry for this type of children's book, which is, a message about, you just alternative families. A woman that she had a child, and she adopted, but the way that she did and how she did, and the birth mom chose her, and she was in the room. But we did not want to have this like as a clinical with people. Instead, it's just a heart, and it's simple, and it's a love letter to any family, even though that's the author's background. The book actually is more about the heart that found you, meaning alternative families. So we know in this day, however your family comes to be, that knowing that that kid could know that like it was really just out of love that found you. So, however people decide to come together. So that was her personal story. I wanted to write a book because so many kids are not in that kind of, traditional heterosexual family, and
I
it's
love
important to
that.
put those books. And so we obviously know that there's a market because she made her Kickstarter that like yesterday. I was so excited to see.
Right. And that's usually the biggest tell is you're like, am I doing the right thing at the right time? Oh, yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Yes. I mean, I know we don't supposed to get political. It's so weird to me that like this is even political. This should not be political, you guys. It's just about alternative families. There's nothing politics here. It's like a cute book that doesn't even depict people, it depicts hearts loving each other.
Yeah, I know, right? The day that hearts are controversial, it's difficult. Whew. Yeah, I know. Yeah, somebody asked me if preppers were alternative earlier today, and I'm like, the day that preppers are not alternative, we have a bigger problem. You know, like once
I
they
mean,
were right, you know.
I
Oof.
mean, literally, I'm just like, if I get this book backlash because there's pretty cute hearts all over the place, that is a whole different, because it's about alternative families. I'm just like, totally, Joe, the world has gone upside down.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay, we digress, everyone.
so what are you most excited about in the short term? Like, what should we look for coming from you in the near future?
Okay. We have this really cool book called, or that is a, so what we did is we took a film called Andy that was shortlisted for an Oscar. It's a cartoon that was actually developed by Jean Schultz, who's the widow of Charles Schultz. Yes, the Peanuts. And she produced this film, no words. So we hired a writer out of the UK, John Kelly, who's done this before. He's really good at adapting screen to book. So we hired him, and the book comes out in October, and it is about canine companions. It's about dogs. People who have disabilities use dogs, and canine companions specifically. All the dogs are free, so you apply, and they're no charge, no matter how much you make or whatever. It's about accessibility. And so this book that's coming out, I'm so excited about it because we're actually tabling, and the organization is tabling at Kaliba. Kaliba gave them a table because I really want to sort of talk about accessibility for people with disabilities within retail space. Like, that is a personal goal of mine. So this book does that. If I can get the organization to be out there talking about the book, promoting story times in libraries, schools, retail locations, and saying, like, hey, how do we make it accessible for people with disabilities to come in here with their dog, right? Because some people are like, no, pets, no, these are pets that are trained to be able to go into public spaces. And so really my idea of this book is to really have empathy and really understand, and have children understand what people with disabilities, how these dogs are raised, and how they're picked. So the cool part is, the main character, she's in a wheelchair, her name is Olivia, she gets to pick Andy, right? And so it's really sort of amplifying to children, like, how people with disabilities get to pick these dogs, have these dogs, and how these dogs actually help them do so many things within society. So I'm really excited about that. That's coming out in October. Watch out, because fingers crossed, we have a lot of national media interested in it. I'm not going to say anything on this podcast, but Joe, it's going to be really great. And I want to say thank you to Jean Schultz and especially for having the faith and the confidence in my company to bring this book to life, because I can't wait for the Nationals to have Jean and the puppies on and talk about the importance of this film. And we have over, I think it's now 12 million YouTube watchers of this short film, and growing. And so the awareness, and 100% of the proceeds are going back to the organization.
Oh, that's rad. So I don't know if you know this, but I had a service dog for many years myself who managed my glucose. And it was like the most magical relationship of my life. Sorry, every other relationship in my life, because she like was so attuned to every and it was a little like she knew before I knew when something was wrong, but then also it was like she knew when I was not capable of making choices, and that was like really wild to think about. That the dog is, because it's like not an obedience dog. It's like almost like a I take over now kind of dog.
Yeah, and I think working with this organization, understanding how they train. So that's what this book's about, like this life of this little tiny puppy, and how all they want to be is a service dog. And I don't want to give away the whole story, but the idea is that it's not an easy road for this little puppy, and this puppy might not make it to be a service dog. Now it does in this book, but the fact of the matter is, it's also, there's tons of back matter and kind of teaching what it's like. And so kids can kind of say, oh my gosh, this is how hard it takes to be this, and that there's all these different types of service dogs, right? So Olivia's in a wheelchair, so there's a certain type of thing she needs from Andy, and Andy was trained to do that, versus your glucose dog. But you learn all about that. And that's my goal with these story times, is that people with disabilities would come in with their dog, and whether it's hearing or eyesight or whatever it is, like the kids can see that these dogs are trained in these really unique ways. And that and like I think it's just more and more awareness, I think, around also how do we create space to talk about, whether also a lot of dogs are for neurodiverse people, and they also help not just physical disabilities, but also neurodiversity.
Yeah, all kinds of things, and PTSD, and so many things.
ADHD.
We did a book about my service dog called Do Not Pet, and it is, obviously it's closer to me than maybe other things we've done. But and then I made a little, like, when Ruby passed away, I made a little. Oh, and she's the one. Well, she's not on this banner, but she's the dog on most of our banners and most of our identity graphics.
Oh.
And and then when she passed away, I made a little, like, place where you can, like, buy the book and then, like, put the money in the bin, and, like, and that's really a fun thing to do, that, is a way to, like, share that, not just the story, but also, like, the information about, like, what is a service dog and how does it work, and why
Correct.
can you not pet a service dog, and why are
Yeah,
there service
so we
dogs
have
at the
a ton
grocery
of
store?
back matter, and we're also developing a bunch of like teacher extensions and bookseller stuff. So we'll have all of that at Kaliba, but really getting the word out about, like, we're also going to have all of these packets for people to really understand what it takes to have a service dog, and also just like what that means, and how do actually do we create, though I'm really excited, how do we create comfortable space for patrons to come into a library or come into a school or come into a bookstore at a story time with their dog and feel like they're not a nuisance, because they shouldn't be. Like, that's not the
Yeah.
point of that dog. You see what I'm saying? Like, I have, somebody in my life who has a dog because of anxiety, severe anxiety. And so that dog allows her to function in the world and be out in the world. And so couldn't even attend that story time without that dog present sitting by her. And it's real.
Yeah, and those are great, and that's a great public awareness to do, and a book is a great way to do that,
Yeah. Well, can I send you the link for the movie? You should watch it. You're gonna start crying. It's so good. It's 7 minutes of your time.
Oh yeah, I'd love that. We can put it in the episode notes.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.